Yo guys, what's going on? It's Shauno here, and today I'm going to be bringing an update for my Phase 2 guide for Mage. We've had a lot of changes recently, and I just want to go through them all with you. It looks like we're going to have 3 viable specs for raiding in Phase 2. We're going to have Arcane as normal, we're going to have Fire as normal, but there's also going to be a third option this time for a hybrid Frost and Fire spec using Frostfire Bolt. But today we're going to go through Fire Mage, and it's looking pretty sad right now. The reason for that is even with full raid gear, like that's the best in slot for everything in the Phase 2 raid, we're only actually getting 2% hit, and so that's like 3% with the hit scroll. So we're short of the hit cap, and remember that's in full raid gear, not pre-BiS. So imagine pre-BiS is going to be, you know, if you're heading into the raid with fire, it's not going to be great. So unless Blizzard adds something, as it stands, we've got 2 options. So this was the build that we were talking about before. There's, you know, you can go either flamethrowing with 2 points and incinerate with 1 point, or you can have 1 point in incinerate and 2 points in flamethrowing. I've opted for this one because of the Scorch build, but if we find in the raid that the range is going to be very big, then we might want more in flamethrowing. Now the issue we have is if we want to run combustion, we're going to go with option 1. And option 1 is to say screw it, head into the raid with 1% hit or 2% with the scroll. But that is going to be pretty rough. I'm not going to lie, it's going to be very, very rough. And whether combustion on a 3-minute cooldown is worth that, I'm not sure. So what we'll be looking at is taking 1 point out of combustion and 1 point out of firepower and putting 2 points into elemental precision. Now, I really didn't want to do this because it kind of sucks. You're level 40, you can use combustion, but you can't take it to the raid because every single other class has got hit rating, but Fire Mage hasn't. So I'm going to make an assumption that Blizzard will add mana oil or something like that, but in any case I would go with option 1. Just go into the raid with 2% hit, 1% hit and combustion. Next we're going to look at the Pre-BiS Gear because we've run through the talents before. I'll just tell you again just in case. So you're going to run with Burnout on the chest, Living Flame on the legs, Living Bomb on the hand, Hot Streak on the waist, and the foot rune is going to be spell power. All of these are pretty much hard locked in. There's not much room for flexibility. We thought maybe with Icy Veins, if you were Scorching as a support mage, possibly. But as it stands, Living Flame is going to get a lot more value. So let's go through the Pre-BiS Gear, which has changed slightly from my last list. So disregard the last list and let's go through this. So there's been changes to gear in the dungeons. So therefore the hat, we're going with the White Mane's head, which drops in Scarlet Monastery Cathedral. It's got 14 intellect, 14 spirit, and 11 spell power now. This is the changed version. If you've got the thinking cap, you can still run the thinking cap. But if you pick this up, then use this. It's more intellect, and with the Hot Streaks playstyle, we're kind of looking at intellect as well for crit rating as well as mana. Although it doesn't give much crit, it's worth using. The neck, we've got the Jagged Bone necklace here. That's just because I have it. Let's assume that you don't have it. The next best is going to be the Ghost Shard Talisman. Now this has had an update and is added spell power. The other stat is stamina, but I'll be honest, you might want to take this because the BiS Gear reduces stamina. So this is probably as good as the Jagged Bone necklace. So if you don't have the Jagged Bone necklace, grab this one. Ghost Shard Talisman, and it will drop in the Scarlet Monastery Graveyard. Next is the shoulders. Now previously we were saying the Inquisitor's Shawl. Now this one, because it's fire, it gives 10 fire damage. This has been updated from the last model and it drops in the Scarlet Monastery Library. Very similar to this one, so you can run this as well if it drops, but this gives you 1 more spell damage in fire. For the cloak, we're taking the Tailoring Cloak, Long Silken Cloak. Gives us 5 intellect and 7 spell damage. For the chest, it's still Dreamweave Vest, 18 spell power, 9 intellect is very, very good. Got Cindercloth robes which have been added, which gives massive fire damage, which is another option. But if you want the intellect, go with Dreamweave Vest. The braces, we've got the Warsong Gulch braces. For the weapon, we'll be taking the Hypnotic Blade, from Scarlet Monastery. Now, the reason we're taking this is because there's going to be a scroll you can use as a mage. Now, what the scroll will do is upgrade it to this Napas sword, whichever you want to call it. Now, this is going to give 6 extra spell damage at the cost of 8 intellect. So the decision's up to you, but I would say that the spell damage is worth it. Then combined, these two are going to give 28 spell damage. For the gloves, it's still the Dreamweave gloves. They're very, very good. There's nothing that really competes with them, so it's best just to craft those. For the belt, we've got this new Death Mage sash. Now, previously, I mentioned this belt from RFD. Now, they've updated it, so it gives 15 intellect, 7 spell damage. Very, very good belt. So we're going to use that one. For the legs, we've got the Red Mage Weave pant. 12 intellect, 14 spell damage. Very, very good. Another option, if you didn't want the intellect, is just to go with these 27 fire damage legs. At the start, they're going to be very, very expensive because these could end up BiS on a non-set, which I'll explain later on. But for now, I'd recommend just making the Red Mage Weave pant. For the boots, because we need hit rating, we're going to run with the normal epic boots. If you're not a tailor, then you should probably be a tailor because you'll want the head later on, and you can make these now. If you're adamant on not being a tailor, you can get the South Sea Mojo boots, but we'll need the hit to get the tailoring. For the rings, we'll use the Advisor's Ring from Warsong Gulch Rep, level 38 version. And then we've got the Signet of Twilight Lord. So for the trinkets, we've got the Void Pearl, and we're going to run with the Engineer trinket if you're an engineer. If you're not, you can get any trinket that you choose. Otherwise, the Rune of Perfection is also very good. For the wand, we're going to take the Wand of Fiery Wrath. This gives us the most extra damage, 14 fire damage. Now that's it for the Pre-BiS Gear. Now the BiS Gear is still similar as before. So you've got the tailoring head, piston pendant, synthetic mantle, cloak. You can either take this one, which gives 9 intellect and 9 spell damage, or 6 intellect and 11 spell damage. They are basically the same. If you go for more intellect, you get a little bit more crit and mana. If you go for the spell power, you get a bit more damage. Before I go over the sets, we've got the Warsong Gulch braces. We've got the Glimmering Gizmo Blade for the weapon. Got the Celestial Orb. Dreamweave gloves are really nice. They beat everything. And like I said, they're the BiS, and you can create them. For the belt, we've made a change. We've got the Death Mage sash in the Pre-BiS, but obviously we want the hit rating if we can get it. 2 options. If you're an engineer, take this one because the on use is really, really good. Basically, on the on use is you flip a coin. If it rolls head, you gain 10% increased crit chance, which is really, really good. It's 30 seconds, 10% increase. If it's a tails, however, you just gain movement speed, and it's a 15-minute cooldown. But most importantly as well, it gives you a 1% crit and 1% hit. If you're not an engineer, you're going to go for the volatile concussion belt, 6 stamina, which helps us a little bit if you're taking the minus stamina set. But most importantly, the 1% hit, 12 spell damage on there. But this one will actually increase DPS. So even if you're an engineer, you'll still want to pick this one up. You'll use this one when you want to use the on use, and then you'll use this one for the rest of the time. For the rings, we've got the PvP ring as usual, and we've got this one from the raid. You can only get 1 epic ring from the raid, so we'll take this one with the 11 spell damage and 4 MP5. Now, for the trinkets, we've explained before the Void Pearl and the new trinket, which basically allows you to turn your health into mana. It gives you 6 intellect and 12 spell damage. It's a really good trinket. For the wand, we're just going to take a Fiery Wrath wand. 14 plus spell damage is the best one, and that's going to be the BiS. Next, I'm going to show you the 3 options for your sets. First set is we use the Irradiated set, the robe, trousers and the boot. We've also got a second option, which is the Hyperconductive set, robe, skirt and the boots. The third option is where we don't take any set. We take the boots, the Irradiated boots for the hit rating, but we take the Cindercloth robe and the legs of Fire Wrath. Now, if we just look for a second at the 3 options. So the Irradiated robe set is going to give us the most crit. At the bottom here, you can see fire damage 245, spell hit 2%, crit 13.58%. So we're going to focus on 3 things here. health, fire damage, and crit. So the health in this set is very, very low. And that's because it's minus stamina set. So basically, when you work it out, it gives us minus 35 stamina between the 3 items. Then if you work it out against the other set, it's effectively minus 63 stamina, which is massive in PvP. So if you're a PvPer, this set is going to be very hard to take. And not only that, you have to be perfect in raids as well, because you're going to be so squishy. If you do a mechanic wrong, you're just going to die. So this set is technically looking the highest for DPS, but it's very, very risky. So now we're going to look at option 2. Now, if you just remember, the health, 1,150. The crit is 13.5 and the fire damage is 245. The second set, the health is 1,730. So like I said, 63 stamina, around that is huge. And in PvP, that's very, very important. Fire damage is 224 and your crit is 12.75. Now, the fire damage, we need to look at the set bonus. So on the set bonus, there's a chance to increase your damage and healing by up to 40 for 10 seconds. Now, this set bonus has a 10% chance proc each time you cast a spell. For this set, we can't do the exact math, but it's going to give somewhere between 11 and 13 spell damage. That's what it's worth. Obviously, it will go up to 40 and then it will drop off, but on average, it is worth between 11, let's say 12 spell damage. So this would actually be 237. So it's a little bit less. There is some ways to cheese the cast, you know, when you're scorching. Obviously, because it's a spell cast proc, if you're casting Scorch, that's only a smaller cast time. You could probably proc it easier. So there's a lot to work out with this, and it's very hard to test until you're actually in the game. But if you do PvP, then this option is probably very, very good. You've got a lot more health. It's got armor on it. It's primarily for sort of warlock tanks, but we're going to use this in PvP. It's up to you what your goals are. If you're just looking to raid and nothing else, then the irradiated set is the best. The other thing we could look at is if you're taking this set for PvP, we've got another option here, which is the fire. We take the fire damage. Now this, obviously the health is 1350, so it's not as high as the PvP set, but you get 249 fire damage, which is actually more than this one. It's 4 fire damage more, but the crit on this one is 13.58 and the crit on this one is 12.1. So they're very similar, and you might want to take this one. It might perform better than the PvP set. If you're not bothered about PvP, then you'll probably take this one. I hope that makes sense out of the 3 sets. Now, one thing to add is for the enchants. There's actually been an enchant added for the weapon that increases damage when you use spells against mechanical targets. We also have a new elixir which gives spell damage, so that's really good. Now, that's everything for the gear and the talents. What I will say is, look, all over the forums, all over Reddit, everyone is saying, oh no, Fire Mage is going to be bad. I bet you if you go into the raid with even 2% hit, it's still going to be fine. But I reckon Blizzard will add something. They won't just leave fire as under hit cap. Regardless, it's going to be a very, very fun spec to use, and ignore all the comments saying that we need more hit, everything like that. It's going to be absolutely fine, but if they add something, that's great. If you have any questions or anything, write in the comments. If you want to see any other builds or anything much sooner, write in the comments, let me know. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the content. Next, we'll be doing Arcane or Frost Firebolt. Thank you very much.